Welcome back to the Manosphere Paradigm, the channel where we learn to level up health, wealth, relationships, and hobbies. Today, I want to talk about depression. In my last video, or a couple of videos back, I spoke about men not being in control of their emotion. We looked at a young boy of 12 years old that has gone the negative route, completely destroying his mom's home, or their home, because his mom didn't give him his way, and he felt that he's going to destroy the entire house because he's not getting his way. The mom was completely distraught, and you guys can go check out the video. I'll put it in the end card, and you guys can check it out. But today I want to talk about an unfortunate event that has happened over the weekend in the Cape Town area, or at least in Cape Town, where a family man behind Kells River triple murder denies claims of a man of him being a violent drunk. What has happened is a man has gone and basically deleted and cancelled his entire family. While that was what he went out and tried to do. He deleted the mom, the daughter, and then he went after the son, and luckily the son got away, and he turned around and deleted himself. Very tragic and sad scenes there. Cape Town, in Cape Town, 4 quick gunshots ripped through the stillness of the early morning, and neighbors were soon to learn of a family murder that took the lives of 3 members. Only one, the son, escaped the bloodbath in the normally quiet neighborhood of Oakden in Kells River. Forensic personnel and police investigators were still busy at the address on Sunday morning, piecing together what had led 48-year-old Hilton van Zyl to kill his wife Anastasia, 44, and the daughter Cassidy, 15. He had also tried to kill his son, 23, but the son escaped, and the father then turned the gun on himself and deleted himself. A police spokesperson Joseph Swatboy confirmed that Kells River police were investigating 2 counts of murder in an inquest. So there you have it. Like I said, unfortunate events where a father has gone complete negative route, and whatever he went through, I mean, we don't know what went through his mind, what he was going through, how long he was going through it. There were some rumors with regards to either him and his wife divorcing. So that also played a role. But in my opinion, from just looking at it from the outside in, if you're going to off yourself and you feel that that is the only resort that you want to take, that's the only route that you can take, do it and sort out and take out yourself. Don't go and hurt or delete other innocent people, family, to be able to basically whatever you've justified in your brain as to the reason why you would have done that. This whole mentality, like I said, when it comes to men that is not in control of their emotions, they are letting their emotions lead them. You kind of unfortunately end up in scenarios like this where if it is true that him and his wife was considering, or they're going through the process of getting divorced, that the mindset of if I can't have her, no one can, that's completely selfish. I'm not going to say anything more about it. Is obviously it's still raw, and a lot of people in Cape Town is debating, going back and forth about it. In my opinion, I believe obviously it's selfish from him to have taken his wife along and his daughter along with him, and now the 23-year-old son is having to live with that memory of his father going after him and wanting to delete him. I'll say delete because it's more YouTube friendly. Wanting to delete him and having to live now with the fact that he has this resentment and anger most likely towards his dad, and also having to sit with this emotion of having to deal with the loss of his mom and his sister. As much as he feels anger towards his dad, also probably asking the question as to why he did it. So it is unfortunate, but let's get into a very interesting take I wanted to review with you guys when it comes to how we in today's society, basically, we have this thing where we all are looking at we are looking at depression, and a lot of people co-sign on each other's depression. Misery likes company. Now, again, I'm not going to judge them. If that is what they felt they wanted to do, they obviously did what they did. But I believe it's selfish, because if you have a family, there's people that's left behind that's having to deal with that trauma. And if you have taken the innocent life of a family member, that also is unfair and selfish. But a lot of people nowadays are wanting to fight for that depression and want to sit in that depression and stay in it and not take accountability, or at least say, you know what, this is where I am now and how I feel, but to move through it and build the mental toughness to get over it. A lot of times I believe that a lot of people is just being spurred on, or is being just kind of like encouraged to basically follow a route that I'm depressed and that's what it is. And people is just, shame you, and you go to counseling, you go in, year out, year in, and years later you still sitting in counseling. For me, if you are not going in and you are not going in there with the therapist to understand what the issue is, and then to come up with a plan to then put that plan into action to get over it, but having to come back to a psychiatrist every time to talk about depressing crap, you will constantly be depressed. So let's get into a discussion where none other than the top G, Andrew Tate, he discusses why he believes that depression does not exist, and he gives the reasons why. It is a bit controversial, and when it comes to Andrew Tate, it's not something that you would not put past him. So let's have a listen to the discussion with him on the Fresh and Fit podcast, as to them discussing depression, him telling us why he doesn't believe and the reasons why he doesn't believe it exists. Let's listen to what he's got to say.
You went viral for saying depression isn't real.
Oh.
Yeah, I went big time viral. I had every
J.K. Rowling, everybody.
All of Hollywood was gunning for me, right? They were very upset that I told the truth.
Can we talk about that? Your views on depression not being real, and you give the toxically masculine, unfiltered, raw side of it.
Well, depression is another weapon they use to destroy our masculine energy, right? That's another weapon to use, because the majority of depressed people are men. Men suffer from depression more than females, because a man's life is worse than a female's life. Facts. A man's life's much harder, right?
Facts.
So another way they destroy us is they convince us to be absolutely selfish. Depression is nothing but extreme selfishness. That's what I'm going to call it.
That's exactly what I mentioned earlier. It's a level of selfishness. If you're going to be taking out the rest of your family, I mean, you have said to sickness and in health, or what's a sickness and in health, better or worse, and that trust that is there for you as the husband to be the protector in this scenario that I just mentioned was completely the family. There's so many broken pieces that everyone has to clutch on and try to put together, to piece together and understand why this happened. But let's get back into it.
And I'm gonna tell you why it's not real in a second. But if you're depressed, you're living inside of your mind, you're obsessed with how you feel, you don't care about anything outside of yourself, and you're an exceptionally selfish person. That's all they're trying to do, is convince you and teach you to be extremely selfish. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna say this right here, right now, because there's a whole bunch of famous people, Lincoln Park and whatever, they killed themselves. If you have children and you kill yourself, you're not a man. I don't care what you're feeling. I don't care how sad you are. You have children to take care of. You're going to embarrass your children. You're going to leave your children without a father.
Andrew, can we say that one more time?
Because you're sad. If you have children.
Again, I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm not trying to obviously minimize and when I brought up the case that happened this weekend in Cape Town. But I mean, when it comes to speaking to certain facts of the situation, it is extremely infuriating to see that that someone has gone the route of taking the life of not just themselves but everyone, the wife as well as the child, the daughter, everyone. Probably I can just imagine the amount of debates that's happening in Cape Town discussing this. And the advocates for depression, wanting people to constantly sit in that depression and not have a way out in dealing with it, coming up with a plan, like I said, and proactively putting in the work to get over it. I mean, this gentleman, I believe, he would have had plenty of opportunity to overcome if he had if he had a drinking problem or not. Should have sorted that out, keep it under control, and live a life that's obviously that's maintained, or at least that is under control. So, you know what? Let me just get back into the video.
And you kill yourself, you were never a man to begin with. Absolute garbage.
Facts.
Garbage. And the only reason this crap happens is because of the acceptance of depression. People say that depression is stigmatized. It's the complete opposite. It's accepted now to the point where it's almost promoted. Yeah. It's insane. Let me tell you something. Depression is not real. Feeling depressed is real.
That's very important. Feeling depressed, and obviously something happened to you that's out of your control, or you are physically, something is wrong and it is affecting your health, and it's affecting your confidence in being able to do the things that you need to do. You be depressed. Something from the external or internal can happen that can obviously set you off and put you in that state of being depressed. But to stay in it is where the issue is.
So you can feel depressed, but you feel depressed, and that is a natural biological evolutionary trigger for you to change something in your life. That's your own mind telling you you're unhappy about X. Yeah. If I went to jail today, I'd be depressed because I'm in jail. Right. I haven't caught depression. I don't have a disease. I'm just upset with my situation.
Yep.
I have people mess with me all the time. I'm fat and I can't get a girlfriend because I'm depressed. I'm like, no, pancake lover. You're depressed because you're fat and you can't get a girlfriend.
Exactly. If you're not going to be putting in the work, and you are going to eat what you want, you're going to drink what you want, you're going to smoke what you want, and you're just going to be completely out living the life you want, no matter what, you're going to have to take those consequences. And when that consequences is going to affect your health, and it's going to affect your confidence, it's going to affect you overall, and you become depressed, then you should take ownership of that depression, because you have gotten yourself into that state. So once you take accountability and decide to do something about it, then it's totally up to you to then move forward.
Do you understand? This is the point, right? So for a lot of people, your life is depressing. A lot of you out there, if you're sitting there and you say you've suffered from depression, you probably live a depressing life. You probably live a depressing life. So if I was you, I'd be depressed. But if you were me, you'd be happy. You know what?
Exactly. I'm remembering a friend of mine that I used to work with when I worked in the waterfront here in Cape Town. We were together doing something, and I was like, no. I was very naive, and I was in my mid 20s, and I was telling him, money doesn't make you happy. It's not about money. It's about the people. Blah 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 blah. And he looked me straight dead in my face, and he said to me, well, how do you feel when you don't have money? When you're flat broke, how do you feel? Okay? And how do you feel when you've got a good chunk of change in your pocket, and you can go out clubbing, you can get some new threads, you can sort yourself out, you can get some things done, or you even got a nice lump sum that you can start planning and strategizing. How do you feel then? Exactly. So don't tell me money doesn't exist. What he is saying, if you are feeling depressed about where you are in life, then you need to put in the work to get yourself out of that situation, and then work towards getting the things that you want. The more work you put in, the harder that you work, the luckier you get.
Could solve depression for most poor people, $1 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Boom. So how is it a disease? So when I say this to people, most of them agree, and they go, okay, but if that's true, why do famous people kill themselves? And I say, well, I know you think you outsmarted me, but I'm Andrew Tate. And I have the answer. The reason is twofold. This absolute acceptance of depression and acceptance of weakness. When you accept anything, to a degree, you're promoting it. Weakness is promoted now in men, right? Yeah. So let's take Robin Williams as an example. Robin Williams killed himself.
I was just going to say him.
Yeah. Robin Williams, right? Famous, He can be banging 19-year-olds for the rest of his life, multi-millionaire, everyone loves him. How could he possibly kill himself? I'll tell you why. Because when he walked into the therapist's office and said, I feel depressed, the therapist said, okay, here's some mind-altering drugs. Start taking these. And then I need to see you 6 hours a day, every day, and we're going to talk about sad things for the next 10 years.
Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. If you're going to be continuing in that state and continually thinking about negative things and why you're depressed and staying depressed, and it's just basically affirming that depression over and over, coming to session over and over, nothing positive as to how to get over it, how to get past it, and how to move through it, then you're pretty much doing that, what Robin Williams doing it for 10 years? 10 years sitting in that state of being depressed, talking about it, thinking about it. I mean, what else did you think was going to happen?
Therapy for 10 years.
Oh, God.
If I had to take mind-altering drugs and talk about sad shit for 6 hours a day for 10 years, I'd kill myself. But if he would have walked into the therapist's office and the therapist said to him, you're Robin Williams. There are people in the world with no food.
Yeah.
There are families in Syria.
I say this
there
every
are
time.
school buses being bombed in Yemen. There are people who lost their entire family in a car crash today. You're Robin Williams, and everyone you love is in perfect health.
Yeah.
You're a selfish idiot. Get out of my office.
Exactly. Once we have this level of gratitude and understand what we have compared to what we don't have, things start to fall into place when it comes to you understanding, you know what, I have more than certain people have, and a lot of people would kill to have what I have when it comes to the family, when it comes to having the stability in having a proper income, a decent income that you can live, build a life on. You have a network of family and friends that's there for you. You have opportunities to do certain things that other people don't. You just have the basics of having a roof over your head. You know, once you start putting that, thinking about how grateful you are for what you do have, you are going to find yourself basically shifting that mindset and understanding, you know what, I have it better than a lot of people, and I actually need to just pull up my socks. I remember back in the day when I asked my mom, I told her, you know what, I don't have this, I don't have that, and why don't we have this, and why don't that? the first thing they'll tell you, do you know how many children in Africa don't have what you have? And I'm like, are we in Africa? South Africa, by the way. Don't be smart with me. Do you know how many children in Africa don't have food to eat? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I can probably think all of you are going back to that same moment, whether it's your mom or your dad scolding you and telling you the exact same thing to tell you that, relax, we have way more, we have something, or we have more than what other kids have. And if you had less than like they were, then you had a leg to stand on, but you don't. So shut up. So you know what, like I said, it's all about perspective and looking at what you have compared to what you don't.
Get some balls.
Bam.
He'd still be alive today. The cure made it worse. And this whole society of accepting depression, as soon as someone's depressed, instantly go to them, oh, poor you, it's okay, we know you can't help it, you can't help it. Why are you telling people they can't help it? Why are you reinforcing that mindset in people? If you come to me and say you're depressed, I say, I will fix you. And you know what's crazy? When I said this depression thing wasn't real, do you know how many people stuck up for depression? You don't understand, I'm depressed, depression's real. I was like, if it's so horrible, why are you defending it? You said
Exactly. You know this thing is negative, but you want to hold on to it, and you don't want to let go. Because if you actually let go, now you have shifted to accountability. And once you've shifted to accountability, the onus now actually is, or the ball is in your court now to put in that work, to go through the process, and to basically get and push through and have that mental toughness. That is what you now have to do. And some people do not want to put in the work and push through and build that level of mental toughness that they need to be able to just be successful, or just be able to live a normal life for the things that they want in their life and the things they want to achieve.
sound like it's PR team. Why? Like, what? I thought it was ruining your life, but you are desperate for me to believe in it. You want me to believe in it. You're sticking up for it. You're defending depression. You're trying to convince me it's real because it's your cure-all excuse for failure. When you're depressed, you can fail in every human metric. I fail at everything, but I'm depressed. It's not my fault. No, you're a failure. That's all you are because you're not trying very hard. If you
Exactly. That is the one video I just wanted to show when it comes to Andrew Tate talking about depression. I've brought it into context of obviously what has happened over this weekend in Cape Town. And before I actually switch off or end this video, I want to do another quick review on a discussion that Andrew Tate had on the Valuetainment podcast, and had a discussion with him about various topics. And one of it was where they were asking him about what he said about depression. And then Andrew goes further to clarify and give them a better explanation as to what he said, not just on the Fresh and Fit podcast, but whenever he gets quoted about people referencing what he has said about depression. So
So we're living in an era where you're right. A part of it is, hey, you're not feeling good, you're depressed. Take 2 of these, see what happens to you.
It's the hero's arc, and this is the thing. This is why when I was saying, when people say you don't know how it feels to be depressed, I say yes, I do. The difference is how it's analyzed. I always argue this 2 ways as well when depressed people come to me, because one of my most famous things people attack me for is their little quote is they say, you said depression isn't real. What about the men who kills themselves? You don't care about men's mental health. We've already discussed how I care more about men's mental health than these people who fucking pretend they do. That's the first thing.
Yeah. A lot of times people, they use that shaming tactic in saying, you know what, you don't care about men's mental health, but it's all about just catching you out and having that gotcha moment. But when it comes to them actually caring about men's health, that is the last thing on their mind, and they will use that shaming tactic to throw you off your scent and also be able to win the argument when it comes to talking about depression if you're not saying what they want you to say.
I didn't say depression isn't real. I said feeling depressed is real. But the idea that depression is going to strike you in your mind and there's nothing you can do about it, I think that is promoting helplessness amongst depressed people, and that's the reason they kill themselves.
Exactly. That whole thing about selling depression and saying, you know what, depression it came upon me and I've now experienced it and there's nothing I can do about it. That is where I'm saying, you know what, that is where you need to build and push through and have that mental toughness to say, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm not going to have this thing basically rule my life and take over. Because if you go back to the good book, the Bible, there's a verse that talks about God has not given us a spirit of fearfulness. He's given us a spirit of power and of victory. So if you are giving in to that thing that's coming on you, depression, and you are just saying, I can't do anything, you are not tapping into the higher power that's saying to you that the word is telling you that you're not born with a spirit of fearfulness. He's not given us a spirit of fearfulness, but a spirit of power and of victory, sound mind and victory. I'm not sure if I'm butchering that scripture. And like I said, that in the morning, if you go back to being grateful for what you have and giving thanks, you will have a better outlook on your day and how you approach it and how you approach life overall.
I don't think that making people helpless in an unfortunate situation is the great thing to do. You have to give people hope.
Yeah.
And I explained that when you believe in something, you give it power. So I tried to say that when I felt at my lowest and I achieved the most I've ever achieved in my life, the reason I was capable of doing that is because I didn't believe in the paradigm of being a depressed person. Yeah. I just believed that this is how I currently feel and fuck it, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my life to be better. And I gave a very simple example, an analogy. I said, if you take 2 people, one believes in ghosts and one doesn't, you put them both in haunted houses, and in the middle of the night, there's a bang. The person who believes in ghosts is now terrified. There's a ghost, they're calling an exorcist, they're panicking in the room, they're hiding. The person who doesn't believe in ghosts goes wind and goes back to sleep. It's the same noise, it's the same scenario, but it's the belief in their mind that terror and ruins their life. It's the belief in their mind that turns against them. And I've said this many times. I don't even give a shit about right and wrong. You can tell me depression's, you can give me with every scientific proof in the world, depression, I refuse to believe in things that take my power away from me. I'm only going to construct a mental model.
That right there, That right there is a mic drop. He makes the statement, I do not believe in something that takes my power away. When we look at how the world today is basically cannibalizing on itself and eating itself, when it comes to this culture of when certain things is being said and certain people are believing a certain thing and telling you, you have to call me a certain thing, you have to believe a certain thing, you have to call me by this pronoun and that pronoun. When they want to take your freedom of speech and your power in saying what you want to say and tell you and dictate to you what you should say and how you should think and how you should believe and basically calculate a point or a whatever topic it is, you have to think a certain way about something to be accepted. I totally reject that. And when he talks about depression, for me, number one, this rings true, that whenever anything or anyone is wanting to take away my power, that to me is the biggest alarm or the biggest red flag. And that is something that you need to be cognizant of and say, you know what? Is this thing empowering me? Is this thing motivating me? Is this thing that I'm dealing with, that I'm involved in, is it edifying me?
Model that allows me to be as powerful as possible. If believing in the idea of depression is going to take my own power away, then I won't believe in it. I don't want to believe in things that make me weak.
That I wanted to make sure that I also cover in this video when it comes to what he has discussed, because I felt that it was a very important point. When you are in a situation that you feel you are powerless, that you can't do anything about it and you're stuck in it, that is when you have given up and you've given in. And that's why I wanted to do this video to talk about what has happened over this weekend in Cape Town and how we as a society have given into depression and we've given into to believing that there's nothing that we can do about it. And I wanted to just have this very radical type of a look at depression, but not radical, I would say, to the extreme, but radical towards the way we in society think about depression and accepting it and just being stuck with it, but coming from it and coming at it with in an angle or from an angle that's wanting to empower you, wanting you to understand that that is a season, that is a moment you have going through it. You are allowed to feel depressed if something has happened. You've lost your job. You have gone through something that is bad for you. Your health is not good. Something has happened in your relationship. You are allowed to feel depressed, but you cannot stay in it. You have to get up. You have to dust yourself off and try again and say to yourself, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to equip myself with? So another thing when it comes to pushing through and wanting to overcome depression, a man, we are not an island. Don't be sometimes, a lot of times you become comfortable. I myself has also become comfortable in being a lone wolf and doing things and going after the things I want and understanding I need to break away from people, be able to focus on the things of where I want to go. And obviously come back again and reconnect and keep maintaining certain relationships. If you are feeling that you are overwhelmed and you can't push through something, speak to someone that you know that you can confide in, that's not going to put your business out there. But if you are a guy, connect with other men that you basically respect and you know that you can confide in them and you can have a conversation with them and you can deal with them as to what you're going through, because most likely they themselves have also gone through something similar. But because we as men, we obviously are ones that at times very stoic and we deal with our shish on our own. It's always good to also connect with other men, like-minded men that you can talk to and encourage each other to be able to, get past and push through that depression and to get to the other side and know that the support system for you. Try and build that relationships so that you have that support system and not be a person that's on your own constantly just trying to go it at your on your own. You can. It's a bit more difficult, I believe. And if you have a support structure that's there as well, it does make things do make things a bit easier. So I think that's also another approach that you can take when it comes to dealing with depression, not just on your own, but within a collective, and having the right support system around you to be able to overcome it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely am going to start posting a bit more. I have been a bit busy, but I see that my subscribers is growing. We're sitting at just under 1,150 odd subscribers. Thank you. We're on our way to 1,500, and I believe pretty soon we'll hit the 2,000 mark, and we'll just keep on going towards 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million. Come on. Like I said, positive. See it, go for it, put in the work. We'll get there. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next vid. Cheers. I'm out.